Can you tell who's out of practice, Mace?
Well, the funny thing is, when I'm doing the show solo, I tend to let the music go a long time as well.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll let the music play.
Oh my
We
gosh.
won't get away. I can't remember the rest of that song, but yeah,
boy.
we're here for you. It feels different because Sean said it last year after the Bills lost, Mace. And at the time, I personally was thinking like, okay, win the division. I wasn't thinking number 1 overall seed, but after they lost to the Bills last year, do you remember what Sean said about, hey, first thing we learned is we got to play these games at home?
Yeah, exactly.
Check.
That was the big thing. And
yeah. What did you think when he said that last year? Because I was like, okay, maybe the division. I certainly wasn't thinking number 1.
Well, I was thinking more the division rather than the number 1 seed. Honestly, I thought getting the top seed might be a bit of a stretch because of the competition that was there. And Buffalo was part of that. Right. But also, I didn't expect the NFC North to crater as it did. That was the thing. I don't think anybody expected Baltimore to come in and finish with a losing record, and didn't expect Cincinnati to continue to founder as it did. Yeah, I figured somebody in the AFC North, the AFC North would break out, whether it was Baltimore or Cincinnati. I didn't think Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh's always going to win 9 or 10 games. They just are with Mike Tomlin. I didn't think Pittsburgh would end up winning the division by default, which is basically what happened in the end.
Right.
And then you figured Buffalo would be there. New England, of course, was the surprise in the AFC East, but you figured either someone from the North or Buffalo would eke out the Broncos. The Broncos could win the division, but remember, we were looking at the AFC West being a 4-way slugfest. We were thinking the Raiders could be a last-place team that won 8 or 9 games. We didn't think the Raiders were going to completely faceplant and be the worst team, arguably, in football. Just a complete collapse. That was part of it for the Broncos, is getting basically 2 free spaces on the board, even though those games were, at least certainly the game in Denver was kind of a struggle. So that helped, and certainly you weren't expecting the Chiefs to be mid at best.
Right. And you didn't expect this team to be nearly flawless in 1-score games, Mace. Yeah. I mean, you and I talked about that with the Chiefs last year. It's like, that's not going to last. Well, guess who got it this year? That was the Broncos.
Yeah, and then, of course, the Chiefs ended up having it boomerang on them this season.
Yep.
And the Vikings were the other team, along with these Broncos and the 2024 Chiefs, that won 11 1-score games in the season. The Vikings back in 22, and it boomeranged on them immediately in the postseason. So at some point, that kind of run inevitably ends. The question for the Broncos is, when does it happen? We'll see.
Yeah.
The ideal thing for the Broncos is to win comfortably and not test that trend. Win this thing by 2 scores, and then you're not testing fate. That would be the best thing for the Broncos, is to take care of business, ease out ahead of Buffalo, win this thing by 10 points, and you're not rolling the dice of fate and letting this thing come down to one play either way, kind of like it did for Buffalo on Sunday against Jacksonville. Jacksonville
gave him too much time.
Yeah, and not only gave him too much time, but it's a tight game, and it comes down to things like Cam Little, arguably the best leg in the NFL, missing at the end of the first half. What was it, 21 in a row that he'd hit, and then he missed. And then a tip drill pick in the final minute. I mean, if you have a tight game, these things can be decided on outlier circumstances and fluky plays. And that when games are close, sometimes that happens. And you put yourself in position to be on the positive side of that, and you can win those games, but sometimes you're going to be on the business end of it too. I mean, hey, the Broncos lost a game like that to the Colts, right? It was a tight game. They get the leverage penalty, and boom, they're on the wrong end of a game like that. So it goes.
That's the way it goes. And one thing, and maybe this is a totally different show, but you got it on my mind talking about Jacksonville. Where was their crowd? Daniel brings it up in the chat room. Crowd is going to be insane in the membrane. And when Josh Allen scores that final touchdown, you heard a roar from Bills fans that were there. And listen, Jacksonville, great season. I'll parrot the lady that told Liam Cohen some very complimentary things. You know, I know the internet's kind of dragging her today, but whatever. Like, great season, great whatever. But that fan base just isn't used to being loud and proud the way that Broncos country can. And Mace, they need to be everything. They don't need to play perfect on Saturday, but having that crowd at their back can really benefit the Broncos.
Well, the internet was dragging the reporters who were talking about the decorum of the press conference yesterday. I mean, it's funny how that ends up going.
Yes.
I'm glad I stayed out of that conversation yesterday.
Yeah, I can say that about a lot of internet conversations.
Yeah, I'm glad I just, kept my keyboard and put it away there. Anyway, so didn't surprise me that it was like that. There's a lot of Bills Mafia in Florida, and that tends to happen when the Bills play in Jacksonville, in Tampa, in Miami. So
they're there.
They're in Carolina, in Charlotte, in Atlanta. So basically, it happens anywhere in the Southeast when the Bills play games there. But I don't expect it to be that way. There will be some Bills fans there. I'm already hearing of some tickets being sold. There's some rumblings of like, hey, people are getting a lot of money for the tickets for this game. Understandably so. But I don't think you're going to hear the roar. It sounded like a 5-figure complement of Bills fans that were at the game in North Florida on Sunday. I don't think it'll sound like that. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with what Sean Payton mentioned last year, getting that game at home. So it's Josh Allen who has to operate within the cauldron of noise and not Bo Nix. I mean, that it doesn't count for everything, but it does count for something. It does matter. It does. Yes. It does make a difference. Home field advantage is a thing. And the other thing, of course, the bonus beyond that, of course, is the bye, not having to play that game. Look at the fact that the Bills are talking, Gabe Davis tears his ACL. And yeah, Gabe Davis, he's not the valuable part he was at one point. But still, this is a Bills receiving core that has battled injuries now. They are going to open the window on Curtis Samuel. And, of course, he had that 55-yard touchdown last year in the playoff game to basically put the game away. So if they get Samuel back in place of Davis, it can kind of be a 1-for-1, essentially.
Maybe even an advantage for Samuel because he can do more.
Yes. So if he's back by Saturday, that can maybe be a positive exchange. But still, I mean, the fact is the Bills had to play that game, and they emerged with injuries. And Josh Allen is hurting as well. He's going to play, but
multiple injuries for him.
He took a beating. And how is that going to affect him? And oh, by the way, they're playing on a short week, whereas the Broncos will have had 13 days. The Bills have 6. They've got to lick their wounds quickly before they make that trip. So there are a lot of advantages here for the Broncos being at home, getting this bye that probably you can't put a point value on it. It's intangible, but it's palpable.
I have maybe somewhat of a controversial opinion that I will run by the level-headed, much more so than I, Andrew Mason. But first, a word from our sponsor.
At Ramos Law, they believe in building long-term relationships with their clients. Wondering if you have enough insurance? Send them your coverage information, and they'll review it for you absolutely free. Dr. Joseph Ramos spent years treating injured patients in the Denver General Emergency Department, making him a true injury expert. Ramos Law, uniquely built to fight for you.
All right, Mace, let me run this by you and see what you think.
Okay.
I believe all the pressure's on Buffalo. The Broncos are at home. They're the number 1 seed. It would seem like, oh, this is the team. But I say it's on Buffalo because of a few things. One, no Pat Mahomes. Their dragon is out of the way this year. They've always talked about, this is our year. This is our year. What better year for Buffalo than a year they don't have to go through Arrowhead? The pressure's there for Josh Allen. This is Bo Nix's second playoff game, which I think will factor in. How is it different from last year? Bo Nix has already been in the playoffs. That, he's got that playoff experience. Josh Allen has a dozen playoff games, just rough off the top of my head. Like, he is very, set in when it comes to playoff expectations, the atmosphere. We certainly know the stage won't be too big for him. I also believe the pressure is on Sean McDermott. Now, people around the Buffalo Bills tell me there's no way they will make a change. And so I'll say there's no way they're going to make a change. But if you want to get classified in a John Fox way of like, you're really good, you can turn a team around. Remember, Sean McDermott takes over for Rex Ryan, and it's a godsend because McDermott is actually carrying and staying at the facility and not having those banker's hours that Rex Ryan did, allegedly, or whatever I have to say. But I look at Buffalo and I just think of all this pressure. The history, I think, Mace, gives this pressure to the Buffalo side that doesn't exist with the Broncos.
It's their 7th consecutive year in the playoffs. It's the 8th year for Sean McDermott because, of course, he made the postseason in his first year as coach.
Yes.
I mean, I agree with every word you said.
Woohoo!
There. Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right. They view this moment as their time, their best shot.
Yeah.
Because the big bad wolf is not in the mix. KC Wolf is sitting in his
Is that guy
lair.
in jail?
Well, that
was the bank robber. He was a wolf, wasn't he?
That's the chief. Yeah, the guy in the wolf suit, the chiefaholic, is in jail.
yes.
But their mascot's a wolf, KC Wolf. Like, that's the thing. They actually have a wolf mascot.
That doesn't rob banks.
Yes, exactly. They've had a wolf since like 1989 or so, something like that.
Weird.
Yeah, there's one of Frank Caliendo's John Madden impression videos. Like, he does a voice. He says, he goes on and like, they have a wolf mascot. What's the deal with that? Basically, like, why do the Chiefs have a wolf mascot anyway? But yeah, the wolf's in his lair right now, just licking his wounds, trying to get ready for 2026 and figuring out. Is he going to have to live without Patrick Mahomes for a few games and string things together in September? That's how they're viewing it. So they have opportunity, but there is urgency and pressure on the Buffalo Bills because they know this is their shot. Now, there's urgency as well, and so it's one of those things, like, it can be a benefit, but it can be a detriment. The old phrase, pressure creates diamonds or bursts pipes. What is it going to be for the Buffalo Bills? Or is it going to be the diamond that finally gives Western New York what it's been yearning for these many years? That Super Bowl that they didn't get in the 90s, that they've never had? Or is it going to burst the pipes once again and leave everyone in Buffalo and Niagara Falls and beyond crying in their chicken wings and beef on weck? I mean, that's the question. I mean, it's not, and the thing is, it's not Josh Allen's last opportunity, you'd think, but I mean, like you mentioned, for Sean McDermott, I mean,
how many cracks are you going to get where you're not getting it done, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. I mean, there were rumors kind of circulating all year long, right? I mean, there's certainly an interesting thing to consider as well, that you have their offensive coordinator Joe Brady getting some teams sniffing around him as a head coaching candidate. And I mentioned this on Sunday's show. That game the Broncos played there on Monday night in November 2023, that was a real turning point for this era of Buffalo Bills teams, because that was the game where James Cook fumbled early. Ken Dorsey stopped giving him the ball and shouldn't have stopped giving him the ball.
Right.
He started giving him the ball again in the fourth quarter, and Buffalo came back and took the lead.
Yes.
It was kind of a final straw for the Bills with Ken Dorsey. They fired him the next day, and Joe Brady became the offensive play caller, and it's gone better for the Buffalo Bills offense since then. And it's gone better for James Cook, resulting in him leading the league in rushing this past year. And this Bills offense, and it is a concern that as we're going to get into in the week that follows, this Buffalo Bills offense does have the kind of equation that can cause problems for the Broncos defense. And it's because they do spread the ball around in their passing game, and they do complement it with the kind of power running that can give the Broncos fits.
They got the best fullback in the game in Gillum.
Yeah.
I can't remember his first name ever,
Yeah.
but Gillum is out there blasting holes.
Yes. So, but it's interesting to think about, if they do move on from McDermott, do they simply just move Brady up now that there's interest in him and he may well be ready for that ascension to the top job? And the Bills offense has kind of matured and truly come into its own since they gave him the reins. Like, would they if they don't get it done on Saturday, do they dismiss McDermott to keep Brady around and kind of try to figure things out differently? Because this is the other thing. Buffalo's defense, now some of this was losing Ed Oliver for most of the season, and they opened the window on Ed Oliver to return from injured reserve. They're going to open it this week, so you might see Ed Oliver on Saturday. But this Bills defense, against the run especially, has been gashed. Mm-hmm. So there's an opportunity for the Broncos to run the ball. And the question is, will Sean Payton run the ball?
Yes.
Yes, this is the thing. The Broncos can get it going on the ground. There's a gleam, there's an opening there for the Broncos to control the pace and respond to Buffalo and its ability to get long drives, because this is a strength of Buffalo this year, just as we saw last January. Buffalo is very good at chewing the clock. They've won the time of possession battle over the course of the year, I believe, more than anybody in football. That's what they do. But what we've seen from the Broncos in the last month is they've been able to grind out some long drives as well. They've done it mostly with short passing game, taking advantage of soft zones. Can we see that now with a little more on the ground, especially given Buffalo's weakness in stopping the run this year? That could tilt the scales toward the Broncos, and it's why I think this game is going to be a lot different than the one last January.
Yes, and I feel that's another whole show we could do later in the week of who's going to run the ball for the Denver Broncos.
Run the ball.
Run the ball, Sean.
I don't know if Sean's watching, but yeah, I want to whisper, run the ball.
Please run the ball, Sean.
Run the ball.
I want to finish on this, and we got to wrap it up for today's program. It is Orange and Blue today, and we are a BFD. I like what Ropart says here. The gap between these teams is not as bad last year. As much as we went into last year in that road game in Buffalo, you and I both knew, we talked about it on the trip, of like, they've got to play perfect to beat the Bills.
Yeah.
The Bills were machine-like a year ago. Not the case this year.
Yeah. Buffalo is about as good as it was last year. Maybe because of their issues against the run, probably a notch below. Its offense is as good. its offense can cause the same problems. The injuries at receiver are a concern, but the two-pronged attack at tight end with Kincaid and Knox, James Cook, and the season he's had, they get there in a slightly different way, but this offense is still extraordinarily effective. But the fact that you can run the ball on them, then the Buffalo is a notch below where they were, and the Broncos have closed the gap. So I think what you have here are two teams that I would say are dead even. And then the Broncos have the game in their backyard right here in town. So, advantage Denver. Pretty simple to me.
I love it, love it, love it. We'll be talking about it all week long right here with you on Orange and Blue today. And we appreciate all the support and love that we get on the Denver Sports YouTube channel. We even have some Bills fans infiltrating the live chat, Mace. So
I'm sure they don't like me saying advantage Denver. Oh, well.
They'll be all right.
Yeah.
We need y'all's help here on YouTube. Mace, how can folks do just that?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss
vid.
What do they expect me to say beyond advantage Denver? I mean, this is a Denver show, for crying out loud. Come on.
And it is advantage Denver. Denver's the better team. They've got to play like it on Saturday. Saturday night, probably, Mace?
I would expect so here's a little thing. Most years, what they do in the scheduling, if you have an AFC game early one day, followed by an NFC game, the next day they invert it. So my hypothesis here is that if Houston wins and plays New England, that's going to be the early game Sunday with Rams-Bears later, and thus Broncos-Bills would be late and 49ers-Seahawks would be early on Saturday. But if the Steelers win tonight, Steelers-Patriots, Steeler Nation, that fan base, they're Steelers fans everywhere. Steelers-Patriots is such a prime matchup. That goes into prime time on Sunday, and thus Broncos-Bills ends up being the early game Saturday. That's why I think they're kind of waiting on this outcome here on Monday night. That's why. Because I don't think they're going to have Houston in the primetime slot on Sunday, but I think if Pittsburgh wins, they're putting Pittsburgh and the Patriots in primetime. That's what I believe they're waiting for.
Okay.
So, because I thought to myself, why would they delay this?
Why wait?
And then it hit me.
That's why.
Of course, they'd want to have Steelers and Patriots. Aaron Rodgers trying to keep his career alive against Drake May, the probable MVP, the next big thing. Of course, they'd want that in primetime. Right? So
we wait.
Yeah. So we're sitting here heading into Monday night waiting on a kickoff time. Just dithering around. We're trying to make plans here. Like, come on.
Well, if I had to dither, Mace, I'm glad I get to dither with you.
I can read that any number of ways.
All right, he's Mace. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. It's going to be a hell of a week, Broncos country, so we're bringing it for you every single day. He's Mace. I'm Cecil. OBT is a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Also, in addition to staying tuned, I also need you to stay frosty, baby.